In the world of monster girls, we have an infinite number of combinations, from personalities, bodies, and even species. But that being said, it has come to my attention that we don't really talk about monster guys that often. And when it does happen, the guy usually turns out to either be evil or not even a character. They just become the snake guy or the centaur guy or whatever. So, to help me examine this strange lack of monster boys in media, is the person who actually brought it up to me, and that, of course, is the lovely Zenno Sama. Zenno, would you like to introduce yourself to the audience?
Hello there, everybody. My name is zenno. I'm your local Dragon Wolf deity who grants wishes, protects dreams, and causes a little bit of mischievous chaos in between. And I'm very happy to be here. Hello there.
Hello. Okay. So, like I said previously, you actually introduced me to this issue which we've been having in anime media, wherein there actually aren't any, well, barely any monster guys in anime and media. Why do you think that is?
I honestly have no real clue. I think if I had to take a very surface level guess, it must be because anime monster girls, do a lot better in terms of marketability, attraction, definitely, than anime guys, which I feel like is unfortunate because you have so much more raw potential because you can have just as much diversity with monster boys as you can with monster girls. I mean, that isn't to say that there isn't any, but in terms of like just pure monster guy who hasn't been turned into effectively a human with pointy ears, tails, and horns as their only features, there really isn't a lot to work with.
Yes,
like
just basically human plus kind of thing.
Yeah. And I feel like it's a missed opportunity because we have series that have some monster guys, like I said before when we were discussing this, we have a lot of those examples are in isekai, but they're not. They even a lot of them still fall into the trap of they're a human, but with additional spice, I guess, kind of like how my model is.
But still, considering how so much media just shows off the, well, as you said, ugly ones. For example, the onis or the orcs, where it's just horns and pig noses. It's not really very unique.
Not really. We have quite a bit of interesting examples across certain medias, but you have to dig for them. And I'll give you even start. We're going to definitely talk about later exactly in some regards to some anime and hentai. They don't. That's a topic for a little bit later. That's later, but yeah, you really have to dig for content in regards to having proper monster boys to the level of, like, for example, Monster Musume, where you have proper lamias and centaurs and arachnes and even mermaids as well, and they have their proper full monster features as well as part of their design, with them still absolutely lovely and wonderful, but they're undeniably a monster girl, you know. And you don't get a lot of that in terms of like the same equivalent treatment for guys. I think the closest we've ever gotten is some of the examples I showed you, which is Rigurd from That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime, the absolute Chad of a goblin. And Gabidu and his crew of lizardmen / Dragonutes, when they got their anime glow up, as I call them, they still retained their monster nature. And you got Geld. And that is all from That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime. That's just one example, though. And the reason why it matters that it's only one is because that's just a sea of other content and genre out there. Where else are you going to find such interesting monster guy diversity?
It's like a very, very rare occurrence, because
it very much is.
Considering how big the isekai genre is, this is only one example, and just naming a couple, you don't really see that often, like what we mentioned yesterday with Overlord. Overlord has their monster guys, but it's not very
not as much of a diverse pool as you
Yes,
would
exactly.
think. The lizardmen, even though they become more and more human from what you've told me, and that's, I'm assuming, in terms of personality, they kind of lose what they are along the way.
But I suppose that's also a type of their charm, because even
Mm-hmm.
though that they look different, you can still see that they are a type of people.
Yeah,
Unlike,
it's a relatability
yeah,
to the
exactly.
audience as well, because otherwise, how are you gonna get? That's something that writing happens to happen, because as a writer myself, you can't just toss a monster in the ring and give it nothing to relate to. You
Yeah,
have to give it a depth of personality, otherwise, the audience is gonna like, okay, well, what do we do with this? Do we kill it?
they're just basically caricatures of what they're supposed to be.
Hmm.
Like,
Yes.
well, it kind of makes sense to this extent, but like in, for example, Goblin Slayer, the goblins really
Yep.
are the bad guys. That's their whole
They really
shtick.
are.
But
Yeah,
that
they,
makes
they they
sense.
follow up and uphold the traditional goblin
Yes.
way of, like, they're little absolute fucking horrible little monsters.
Yeah.
They
They are
season 1, episode 1
terrifying.
traumatized. Episode 1 traumatized me.
Ooh.
I was not ready. I was not ready.
You want to get some head pats?
Yeah. It'll be fine.
But then we also have characters like the lizard priest,
Yeah.
who's really traditional in his ways, wherein he uses a type of necromancy, but he's also very supportive
Huh.
and his own character also.
That's really cool. I always like that too. When you push the envelope of what you have set aside as your tropes for your monster race, and you push the envelope from within what people would expect. So you give some a lizard guy, yeah, like even in D&D, if you look at lizardmen races, they are known to be religious. But if you push it a bit further in regards to a media, they are religious. Why and how, and to
Oh
what
yes,
extent
like
are they religious?
backstories kind of
You
thing.
know, giving them depth. You know, you can have a flat chested character, but the character itself ain't flat. You know.
Yeah.
We could have said, like, what we're saying here is the fact that it's not necessarily authentic, but what we're looking for is something a bit different than what we've already been seeing.
Yeah.
Because we see a
Something
lot
new.
of quote unquote, yeah, exactly. And in terms of like monster girls versus monster guys, the disparity of what they are is very, very real and apparent. Like, you see you can have a wide variety of different monster girls in terms of body types and personalities and a lot of other things. And then on the other end of the spectrum for monster guys, well, first off, you don't have a lot of selection.
Yeah.
You only have like onis, kitsune, occasionally you'll have a raccoon dog. That's characters that can shapeshift, and they fall under your shoujo anime boy kind of tropes of, oh, they're definitely kind of somewhat sweet and adorable and precious, but, you know, they're quote unquote a monster. You've got this with like Tomoe Mikage from Kami-sama Hajimemashite. You've got that one in anime where like the girl gets transported to another world to take care of like an inn that's run by yokai. All of them still look very human and act very sweet and kind, and I'm like, okay, but you could always stretch the envelope of their design to make them represent the monster a bit more, and B, monster yokai is not usually supposed to be nice.
That's true. That's also
Often,
true.
I like have them be a bit wild, have them be a bit more, you know, feral, if you will. I'm not sure if that's really the right word, but like, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah,
You
like
don't need to have a
beastly
completely tame.
or more chaotic or something like
Yeah,
that.
something like that. Give us more monster guys, like in regards to how they look monstrous. They act monstrous. They aren't afraid to be a bit grisly and, you know, bloodthirsty and a few other
Yeah,
things.
pretty
You
much.
know,
Yeah.
and like, you can have a character be a character, but you can also have that without them denouncing what they are. You know, you don't need to completely humanify. I guess that's a word. You don't have to completely turn them human in order to make them relatable.
I think like what, well, last episode, if the viewers know, I actually had jamming on a video, and she did explain like part of her idea is to conceal her identity so she looks like human, but when she is online, she doesn't like to conceal it. If you can apply this type of strategy towards more animes, this would actually help build the lore of the characters. For example, what happens in Miss Kobayashi Dragon Maid, wherein the characters straight up show their horns and tails, and sometimes even how beastly they are. But it doesn't get noticed by the humans because they have a type of perception blocking, which they use. But to us viewers, it's very appealing because we know that these guys are dragons. They're not just humans with strange features, but they really are dragons, and they show it. And that's what I really like about the anime.
I like that too as well in regards to that as well. There's not a lot of that in the reverse side of the coin for guy characters. Like the most you get is like off the top of my head, you can get that one scene from Kami-sama Kiss and where Tomoe, who is the Kitsune main character, goes to a theme park with the main protagonist and she completely forgets that he needs to be, wearing more human attributes. He needs to hide his ears and his tail. But it's really interesting because he just acts more like how he normally does within the shrine because he's a Kitsune shrine familiar. And so having to point that out was very interesting. It was a nice dynamic, and because like that was the closest thing we had to a character having to hide what they are because humans would notice. And it was like one-off scene. It was played as a joke, which is a bit sad because I would have loved to see that a bit more.
But it'd been a great dynamic to have more characters interact this way. How they try to strive to change the way they dress, the way they act, just to fit into more human society. Well, what we discussed, and the whole reason we made this, is you could create a whole shoujo manga series being something like the Monster Musume, but with reverse genders and with whole new dynamics. Like
you could definitely do that. You could definitely have a female protagonist with a bunch of male love interest monster boy, being there. That is an absolute thing you can do, and I would actually be willing to bet money on that there is a definite market for it, because I literally built my entire book series Skyreach. It started off as an idea of two things. One, it was the question of where's all the monster guys? Monster girls are great and all, but there's not a lot of monster guys, and also fan fiction. It started off as great
work started off as fan fiction anyway.
Yeah. But it's where I turned around and 14-year-old me learned to read this, and I was like, well, I'm starved for content in regards to monster guys. There's not a lot of options to pick from 10 years ago, but there's not that many anime here in the West anyways, because, we haven't had that big anime boom just yet over here in America. So, and I was like, well, if you can't find it, you make it yourself. And thus, my series of Skyreach was born. And it was started off as an idea to make a Monster Boy encyclopedia, which at the time I didn't know Monster Girl encyclopedia existed. I learned about that when I was I learned about that when I was 17 or so. And I was like, what's this? Oh. But the point is I was making something in regards to what different types of characters of monster guys you could find in media. And so you had your centaur guys, which is probably very traditional. You have effectively Lamia. There is a male equivalent to Lamia. I just can't remember the name of it off the top of my head.
Naga?
Arachne. Yes, that's it. Nagas.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Nagas are actually technically gender neutral, which is even better because you can make them whatever you want. But yeah, you've got your liches, your necromancers, your exactly. You've got undead types and stuff like that. You've got your your spirits, your deities, your dryads, your nature spirits, that sort of thing. There are male equivalents to things like that, obviously. In regards to deitic type of entities, there is oftentimes both a male and a female version of the same entity. There's also, in terms of dryads, you also have your forest protectors, like satyrs, for example. Satyrs are interesting because they can be both good and bad.
That's fair, yeah. Like, look at Pan.
Horny little goatman.
Horny little goatman. We're gonna quote that now.
But like, there is a treasure trove of things you can make, and it's the same thing as well when it comes to, like, you see yokai anime monster girls. You have male equivalents of those as well. For every Yuki Onna, there is a Tsuchigumo or something that could be considered, you know. There's variety that you can have. And hell, I would even be willing to wager, because Yuki Onna is also one of the creatures that can shapeshift, but often takes the form of a woman. You can actually have a male Yuki Onna. In regards to that, I feel like if you gender switched some of the traditionally female characters, you can actually still make it work, and also have it a bit more interesting as well. I've seen some amazing OC character design throughout the internet, and I'm like, come on, guys. I know you're capable of it.
We've seen a couple of VTubers with amazing designs.
Yes. Oh my god. Like for example, give shout-outs to your lizard.
One of my
shout-outs
buddies,
to your
Thorntail. His design is a lizard man. This design is so authentically monster boyish, monster guy-ish, you know. Wherein he looks so uniquely monstrous, and unlike some other. Well, I'm not saying that their designs suck, but like this design.
I'm saying in terms of like in comparison to traditional monster guys, he definitely is what we would expect in regards to a lizard guy, and it's
very
great.
reptilian and very organic. He is like the type
of
person you think of when you say reptile guy or reptile person. Unlike some people whose design there's basically as just a human with scales. Nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying that
it's like in terms of like what we're discussing in regards to anime monster people, and more like belong of the tropes of what you would expect. They don't just humanize them and add additional features to their design. Again, we're not saying that's bad by any means. Then in fact, we're not dogging anybody's design by any means. But this is in regards to just this discussion. We're talking about more monster people. In regards to like Thorntail, for example, being predominantly monster. In fact, one of my friends, Hidden Tome, is a slime VTuber. He's purely slime as well, so he's really nice. And then of course, you even got people like Kimrai, who, in terms of monster girls, there you go.
Just going back to the main root of the topic. Monster guys are just very rare in the community, very rare in media. We have tastes of what it could be in Monster Musume, in introduced viewers, well, in the furry community. But it could have been expanded upon more in more medias that would help propagate
more medias,
games.
More medias, more genres,
so
more
games.
Like, oh my god, that would be fantastic. And like, and in regards to that as well, I mean, the closest things you get to monster guys in game content is otome games, and even again, they fall into the trope. Yeah, they fall into the trope that we were just already discussing about. They're just human, but with additional features that aren't, you know, beyond the horns and like occasionally a tail and maybe some monstrous eyes. I'm like, come on, I want to see a monster guy with proper like big meaty paws and you know, some more actual like or like scales all the way up his cheeks and stuff, and like horns not only just on the top of his head but like maybe on like his forearms or something, you know, like really push the envelope of what it means to be a monster character.
Yes, but while retaining the character in monster character. Like,
exactly.
And how they're not just one-noted. Give them some skills, some backstory, some culture.
Give them substance. Give them substance.
Give them substance.
You know?
Yes. That would just make, well, this whole thing a lot better for everyone, especially people who are like us, who understand this but don't see it often regardless. Which is why, well, what you said, your book is your version of you can't find it, so you just make it yourself.
Yeah, I'll be releasing my very first edition in fall, so keep your peepers peeled for that.
Viewers, you know what to do.
Oh my.
Well, so any closing remarks for what you think anime creators, normal creators, YouTube creators, viewers, anyone, what they should do to help propagate this whole mess of We Need Monster Guys?
Celebrate the things that you love. And if you love things, and if you can't find a lot of the things that you love, never be afraid to make more of them. Be able to expand upon your creativity and just have fun doing it, fundamentally. At the end of the day, if it's something that you enjoy and you love making, and it's something that makes you happy, and you are enjoying it enough to post it on the internet, let me know. But also do so in a way where you are having the best time possible, and don't ever stunt your creativity. Just because you might think something might be a bad idea, that doesn't mean, it's bad. You like it, and maybe others will too.
Yes, definitely.
And of course, first and foremost, especially, celebrate the things that you love and enjoy, and things that make you happy.
Yes, that's an excellent closing remarks. Well, thank you for coming on, and
thank you for having me.
Well, this was a great talk. I'm sure our viewers got a lot of information about why there should be more Monster Guys in anime and the other medias. So, thank you, and we'll continue with the video. With all that being said, we would like to see more Monster Guy representation that isn't too one-dimensional in more media. Like a Monster Guy dating simulator perhaps, where the jock is a harpy, the Lamia is a nerd, and the merman is a delinquent. Just some stuff to help spice up the genre. Also, why are there so much hentai that does involve Monster Guys, always gives them massive horse cocks?